Hello, in this lecture I'll teach you how to clean up any imperfections on a portrait shot. This will take about 10 minutes to complete and we're going to transform this image to this one. So we'll remove all skin imperfections and at the end we'll even add 1 or 2 water drops on her face just for the fun of it. You have this image attached, so please download it and work along. Here's what we're going to do. Let's duplicate this layer 2 times. The first one is going to be called Blur, while the second one can be renamed to Texture. This will help us in just a minute. Hide this layer and select Blur. Of course, we'll add a blur effect, but in this case, I'm not going to transform it to a smart object because that'll complicate things unnecessarily. Considering the size of this image, 4 or 5 pixels should be enough. OK, now reveal the texture layer, select it, and go to this top menu. Click on Image. From this list, choose Apply Image. From this new window, we have to make sure we use the following settings. For the layer, choose Blur, the one in the middle from the Layers panel. That's why we renamed it. The blending mode should be Subtract. As for the scale and offset, these need to be set at 2 and 128. These are settings that work best for 8-bit images, which is what you'll encounter most of the time. If you want to check, go to Image Mode. From here, you can see this is set at 8 bits, and these particular values seem to work best. What's going on here is we're placing all of her texture on a different layer. That's because when you retouch a subject that has wrinkles, pores, and overall lots of skin details, it's best you keep them. Sometimes you might want a Barbie doll look, but for a more realistic approach, I recommend you try this technique that will preserve all those details. Just in case you're working on a 16-bit image, you'll have to change the blend mode to Add, set the offset at 0, and the scale value should be set at 2. You'll have a cheat sheet attached with all the steps and settings. Right, next we'll have to change our blending mode for this layer because we can't see what's going on. Click here and from this list, choose Linear Light. This seems like it's hiding the layer, but in fact, we're just keeping her skin texture. Switch to the Blur layer, and now we'll grab the pen tool. Here's what we're going to do. We'll divide her face into several regions and we'll apply another blur to each part. Make sure you have it set to Path from the top right. Here's how the process is going to go. We'll click fast and select different parts of her face. You don't have to be precise, you don't need to cautiously place each anchor point, just roughly select one area. In this case, we'll start with her forehead. Once you've closed your path, right-click. From here, we'll choose Make Selection. Before we hit OK, let's set the feather amount to anywhere between 15 and 25 pixels so we can get a soft transition between our retouched areas and the rest of the photo. If you want to see how your feather looks, hit Q. This will activate Quick Mask mode, and here you can see your current feathering. For me, this is looking good. Let me take a step back and do this again so you can clearly see what's going on. I'll start from this left region and work my way around her forehead. My advice is you keep a steady pace and don't concentrate too much on creating a pixel-perfect selection. Here I can click close to her eyebrows because the selection is going to contract due to my feathering. Just in case you get some of her hair, that won't be a big deal since our texture is placed on a different layer. Once you've finished your path and you've clicked on your initial point to close it off, right-click and create a selection. Set the feather radius to 20 pixels. Now go to Filter, Blur. From here, we'll choose Gaussian Blur yet again, but we'll crank up the value to about 10 or 15. This is what I'd regularly use, and I can toggle this filter's visibility by using this checkbox. Because I want to make sure you're seeing a clear difference, I'll increase it to 20 pixels. Hit OK, and now I'll systematically take each area of her face and perform the same steps. Let me do this left side. I'm not rushing because I'm recording, but because this technique is very forgiving. I think it's a great way to make friends with the pen tool. When you want to reuse the same filter with the same settings, Alt-Control-F is the fastest way of doing that. Again, this makes a big difference for her skin tone. It evens it out, and you'll soon see this makes a world of difference. While I work in the background for each region, please note that all these water drops are not affected. If I used another retouching technique, I would have had a far more difficult job. This is why I chose this particular image. It really showcases the value of this approach. In case you're curious, this is called frequency retouching, and it's fairly popular because it produces brilliant results. I've tried it with different variations that don't rely on the pen tool, but to be honest, it's a great way to practice. Okay, now I'm done with this part and I want to show you the before and after. Let me group these two layers and I'll toggle their visibility. Here's the original image. Now here's our progress so far. I think this makes a world of difference and it works on all sorts of skin issues, so feel free to try it out on all sorts of pimples, blemishes, acne and so on. Now for the second part of our activity. I'll tackle her skin texture. You can see on this left side we have a bit of a problem. Get the clone stamp tool from your left panel. Its hotkey is S, by the way. My advice is you use the following settings. Change the blend mode to lighten. Leave the opacity at 100%, but uncheck this aligned option. It's essential you choose current layer from this drop-down, otherwise you'll have issues with your effect. Now hold Alt and click somewhere in this region where her skin is pretty clear. Make sure you adjust your brush to a moderate or small size. Now start painting over this blemish and you can see how it goes away. Take your time with it, and in case you find the clone stamp tool is too strong, take down the opacity to 50% or so. Here I'm happy with it and I'll focus on another aspect. I want to add a few more drops to her face, just to showcase how fantastic this technique is. Still on the texture layer, change the clone stamp tool to normal. Sample over any wet area from her face. Now we'll paint it anywhere else. I can either click here and there and we can see how a couple of new drops show up. But I can also click and hold to completely drench this cheek area. It really depends on what you're trying to do, but I really hope you can see how this process is fast, easy and powerful. And that wraps it up. Try it out on some of your own photos and see how they do. I think you might fall in love with this technique. Have fun!